All right, here we are again, back at it. Another episode of the More to It podcast. I'm the host, Jay Moore, with Hail Varsity Magazine, hailvarsity.com, and I am gladly to be joined by Mr. Creighton Prep, Mr. Zach Potter. ZP, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, besides the fact that Creighton Prep got beat 42-0 last night.
I didn't want to bring that up. I thought about bringing it up, but
It's okay. As an
that's a
alumni,
rough start. That's
yeah,
a rough start, but hey, at least they're playing football.
at least they're playing football. And as I was telling someone this morning, it's only up from here. You get beat 42-0, so you can only get better. I hope.
Well, let's be honest. I think Westside's by far the best team in the state.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's. I mean, they got two Division I recruits now, and then their quarterback's really good. He's going to go to North Dakota State, so they'll build from this one.
they'll build from it. Definitely a tough opponent to start with, but maybe you get that one off your schedule quickly, and then you just win out. Maybe.
Yeah. Everyone asks me, how would you handle this if you're playing at Nebraska and so forth? And would you still play? Would you not play? Let's say if they do play in the winter, even though we've heard some reports here as of lately that they could start, as early as Thanksgiving weekend, which is great. But let's go put ourselves in our same shoes we were, being Nebraska kids, wanting to grow up, play at Nebraska, and you would play. Let's say you're going to start playing January, potentially February, and you would have a chance to go play in the NFL. Would you have taken that risk to still play, knowing that you wanted to still go and play in the NFL?
I think it all depends on who you are and what your stock is in the NFL. Me going into my senior year, I would have still played, I think, because I needed to, just to get more film out there. Being behind guys like you and Carricker my first 2 years, and then only starting 1 year in my junior year, I know I wouldn't have been able to, especially our junior year, and how bad we were looking back at it, and having Callahan get let go, and then Pelini coming in. I needed that senior year to put film out there for NFL scouts to look at. So I think that's how you look at it. I think a lot of people look at it as far as, I could get hurt and then I'm not going to get drafted. If I'm like someone like Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, okay, I'm probably not playing. I kind of have, I'm in it already. Whereas, being a borderline guy, I think you have to play just to get that film out there.
Yeah, I think I'd put myself back there, and even I think going into my senior year, I was projected to be a second to third round pick. That's what the NFL, they give you. You have access to that. I still think I'm playing just because that's what I wanted. I was a Nebraska kid. That's my biggest dream growing up, was to play football at Nebraska. I think that had been a really, really hard decision for me to say, I'm going to sit this one out, because even looking back, my time in the NFL wasn't great. And I still think I'd go back and do college football all over again before I do NFL, just because that was the greatest 4.5 years of my life.
You even see guys, not play in their bowl games, the last couple of years just for injury. And I think that those are really the guys that are going to be your guaranteed first round picks that are guaranteed millions, if you will. But like you said, being a guy that's a middle tier or to a late round or undrafted guy, and just because of what Nebraska football means to people like you and I want every chance I can to run out of that tunnel.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I always look back, because you played your true freshman year, but all you did was really block field goals. Do you wish you could have gone back and redo that to get yourself an extra year?
Part of me says yes, but then the bigger part of me says no, because it was such a cool experience to block some of those field goals with me and Barry Turner, but also to get in some of the games, give you or Carricker a break when him and I would get out there. As I still look at it, I was able to play at Nebraska as a true freshman, and to run out of the tunnel and just do all that stuff, and to still make it to the NFL eventually and have a decent career. I can't really go back and say, man, I wish I would have done this, because it would have helped me. But so I'm totally content with what I did. It was fun, freshman year, sophomore year, playing with guys like you and Adam and Barry and Ola and all those guys. It was so fun to be part of that kind of that too deep rotation.
We just 2020 has been terrible, and when we were teammates, John Blake was our D-line coach, and he had just passed away this year. and I tell so many stories, but like I've been doing this podcast and I haven't had a chance just to talk with former teammates on the D line, just because I've been kind of focusing on more what's going on with COVID, pandemic. Are they playing? Are they not playing? But I've told many stories, good stories about Coach Blake. I mean, what stands out to you about being around Coach Blake for only really 2 years that you were there?
Yeah, obviously the biggest thing he always did was he'd show you his Cowboys Super Bowl rings as a recruiting deal, and just his ability to connect with so many people. He was just a people person. He might not have been the best D-line coach, but he was sure a people person, and he could get a group of people to play together and have fun. I remember like before game, like when we do the slow-mo warm-up thing. I go back and I looked at that. I'm like, what were we doing? Like that wasn't getting us ready to play a game, but at the same time, it was getting us to be loose and to have fun and to get ready for a game. So just little things like that he could. It might not have been football related, but it was more just people related or getting guys loose to play better. Little things like that, and then obviously, Coach John Osterhout, Coach O, kind of did more of the coaching aspect in a way. I mean, Blake knew plenty of stuff, but he was definitely more of a recruiter, a people person for sure.
Yeah, when you transitioned from Coach Callahan 07 into Bo Pelini, and I was fortunate enough to work with Bo, and he was our D coordinator in 03, and loved playing for him. Just talk about that transition, because I mean it was a transition that I mean it was very, very successful. I mean he a lot of 9-win seasons. Now he's a D coordinator down at LSU, but just the contrasting differences maybe from working with the offensive-minded head coach. Now you go to Pelini, defensive head coach. You had Kevin Cosgrove, and that gets all changed out. That transition going from 07 to 08.
For me, it was pretty neat because, like you said, when he was here in 03, that's when I was starting to get recruited by Nebraska. So I got to meet Bo and Carl back then, and then they come full circle and get hired. And we never really skipped a beat. And it was fun to, I walked in there for that first meeting. He's just like, hey, Zach, what's going on? Like, it wasn't just a new coach, but, going from, Callahan to Pelini, as just far as, like you said, offensive, defensive minded, all we cared about on defense was, stopping and not scoring and giving up points. And obviously that was right in the Big 12 phase of, all their different, read options, kind of the beginning of that, which it wasn't exactly easy stuff to defend, but Pelini was such a good defensive mind guy. And then you bring in guys like, Carl and John Papuchis, who helped kind of coach us, some of us DNs. He was a younger guy, helped special teams, Cosgrove, a lot of those guys. He just brings a totally different style of play. And, I think if you ask the majority of people who played for Pelini, they would still say to this day they'd run through a brick wall for him, because that's just the type of guy he was. And everybody liked him, I think. And at least I know I did. I still do. And, I followed Youngstown when he went there, and I'll follow LSU just because, I want him to have success.
Yeah. I mean, I was only able to play for him for 1 year, and I didn't play. I mean, I was still doing scout team duty in 03. I mean, I would still give the guy a hug if I saw him, because I was still playing when he was coaching, and I was back there every offseason, every summer, working out with those guys, working out with, when you were still on the team, and working with, gosh dang, what was it? What's the strength coach? Now he's at Vanderbilt. Who's your
Dobson.
Dobson, yeah, coming back and
Body by Dobbs.
Yeah, Body by Dobbs. Yeah. What was the Friday workouts you always did? What they call them?
Oh man. Whoa.
God.
Body complex. It was something. It was a complex, and it was those were brutal. But because it was such a different lifting style from Coach K than what we've been doing. He was part of the Doyle, Iowa tree of just the full functional movements, where with Coach K, it was just like, all right, let's squat, let's bench, let's do lunges, and let's get them as heavy as we can. It was such a different experience. And, Body by Dobbs, and then you had Rex, his other guy who walked around on his toes. But, man, it was such a transition. But that's the same thing, the transition from Callahan to Pelini. Everybody was just different. He held over, I think it was Coach Watson and Coach Gilmore, I think, stuck around for a couple years under Pelini. But for the most part, it was all new, and it was just I remember that spring, our bodies were they just changed so much because it was such a different training method.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. It's Coach K. I tell people, what was it like with him? I go, it didn't matter if it was an off day, whatever it was. If you could lift heavy, he was gonna make you lift heavy.
Yep.
If you did that one a little, he thought you got through it easier. And even if it was 315, he's like, let's do 325 for the next one. And he loved to mess with you. He loved to get in your head. He loved to do tricks just to kind of mind F you, and the best part about it, like I tell people, he wouldn't forget it. He would still talk shit to you walking down the hallway. You'd be walking to class or he would get lunch, and he would still be busting your balls because he made you drop, you drop the squat rack, or the squat bar, or you couldn't get, 325 up for the last set of 5, and he would just love to get on your ass about it.
Yeah, Coach K, he had a way to get in your mind and get in your head and it would psych some people out, and you couldn't get that last rep, and other guys would respond differently, and they would kill it or even do, a 6th rep if they weren't asked to do 5. And people always ask me, like, did you like both of them? I go, yeah, I like both of them. I mean, completely different methods, but, you look at any, say it's an offensive coordinator, there's 9,000 ways to, run the ball or pass the ball. And it's the same thing with lifting and strength and conditioning. It's just everyone's different. Everyone reads a different, book or came up under somebody else. But all the training methods are different and they're fun. But, at the end of the day, the end goal is still to get, bigger, faster, stronger. There's just different ways to get there.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more than one way to skin a cat. So I always get asked too, people ask me, they go, what's it like to play with Ndamukong Suh? And I go, he really wasn't the Suh that when in 05, because he got there, played as a true freshman, but got hurt, gets his extra year eligibility. In 06, he played sparingly. I mean, I think his best game he probably ever played in 06 at USC, my senior year. But I'm like, it really wasn't the Suh you got to see, but you got to play with Suh in 08. And that was his coming out party.
Yep.
I mean, and you gotta line up next to him, and just seeing a guy just kind of transform into, honestly, arguably the greatest defensive player ever to come out of University of Nebraska.
Yeah, I get the same question all the time too. I always tell people, and Suh's a good friend of mine, and the thing that helped Suh the most, I think, was Bo Pelini and Carl Pelini. They were able to light a fire somewhere within him and teach him the techniques and how to understand football, scout football, watch film, and get those things. And then obviously his junior, he was really good, but senior just went on another tear, against Texas and all those things that people remember him just throwing Colt McCoy around. But I always say, and I would say Suh would say the same thing, Carl and Bo are two guys that helped him turn that next level and get to the player that he is today. Because like you said, his freshman, sophomore year, I mean, everybody matures, as they go through their college career. But, he was just, an average, 4 or 5 star guy that came out of Oregon and had to find his way. But yeah, those guys, and the cool thing is seeing him still play today and use the techniques. The funny thing that a lot of people don't know is if you really look closely at Suh in any of his pictures, he still wears his Husker shoulder pads. You can like when he was with the Dolphins, you could see the red, sticking out there. And so even with their improvements in shoulder pads or technology, he's still rocking those and still playing awesome. It kind of reminds me of, I think, kind of in a way, I think Michael Jordan used to always wear like his Carolina shorts underneath his Bulls shorts. It's like he's still wearing his Husker, shoulder pads under whatever pro jersey he is, and they just travel with him.
Yeah, but shoulder pads are huge for D linemen because, like, I hated it because those jerseys are so tight and like I had a hard time getting my arms up. It's like, how can I tip down passes or stuff like that? Because I mean, they'd be like just getting those pads just right to where they get a little flexibility, so where you can move and like do things. Because I remember you put your jersey on for practice, and that game jersey was completely different. Like, oh my God, I can't move my arms now, and I have to be able to use my hands. But I get it, man. Those shoulder pads are important.
I tell you what, this is just kind of a funny story. When I was in St. Louis for a preseason game, and it was like their first or second preseason game, somehow, some way, the equipment guys got a medium jersey over my shoulder pads, and I went to put this thing on it, and I couldn't move at all. And I finally went to the equipment guy. I'm like, there's something wrong with this jersey. Like, it's just not big enough, or like I can't move at all. Like my hands were literally just up, and I couldn't even move. And he looked at it, he goes, "Yeah, this is a medium. Someone gave you the wrong jersey." I think I was wearing like an XL or a 2X jersey as a D lineman, or I was a tight end then. So, I still didn't want it to be loose or baggy because, just for hands. And it just, what do you think of that story? I was just like, man, I couldn't even move. And I still have that jersey now just for the sake. And I look at it sometimes, I'm like, how did this ever get over shoulder pads? And that's any jersey really right now. I look at it, I'm like, I put it on. My kids want me to put it on or something. I'm like, how in the world did this go over shoulder pads? And then I still was able to play football in it.
Yeah, well, technology is a little better now. You see like the jerseys Nebraska wears, and I mean they look like a youth jersey, but that material just stretches out perfectly.
Yeah,
technology has come a long way. So we'll transition now into your NFL. So you play D line, defensive end with Nebraska, but you make a transition to end up playing tight end in the NFL. I mean, that doesn't happen a ton. I mean, take us through that process, because there's so many great stories about guys who are late round picks, undrafted free agents that just make the best of what they have and then make a great career out of it. And you are one of those guys.
Yeah, no. So, I went undrafted with the Jets. I still played defensive end when I was with the Jets under Rex Ryan there. Went through training camp, did DN stuff, got cut. And then I was back in Lincoln just working out. And then an ex-Husker, Jake Peets, called me. He was one of the scouts with the Jags. And he goes, "Hey, I think we might be looking to sign you to our practice squad." And Jacksonville was one of the couple teams that had called me after not being drafted as far as undrafted that I could have chose to go to. And so he's like, "Hey, just keep your phone on you. Are you in shape still?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's only been 2 weeks since fall camp. My body feels a lot better after not going through training camp for 2 weeks, but I'm ready to go." And then the next day, Gene Smith, the GM, called me, and he goes, "Hey, so we're going to sign you to our practice squad, and you're going to move to tight end." And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, "You're what? I'm moving to tight end? Like I haven't played tight end since high school." But in my voice, and hopefully my voice was fine, I'm like, "Hey, that sounds great. Just tell me what time I need to be at the airport. I'll hop on a plane and do it." And so I went down to Jacksonville and was on the practice squad, made the switch to tight end. So, but here's the funny thing is you've been in Jacksonville before. It's like 95 degrees in the fall. The humidity's through the roof.
Yeah.
I'm a former DN. I think I was still weighing probably like 285, and I'm asked to go out there and run routes as a tight end on the practice squad all over the place. I think I lost like 15 pounds within a matter of like 2 weeks because it was so hot, and I'm this big guy just running all these routes consecutively and trying to block. And I still don't know what I was doing really. Mike Tice was my tight end coach, but I was lucky to have a guy like Tice because he was also transitioning Zach Miller from quarterback to tight end, former Husker, now then a UNO guy. So he was working on that transition as well. He was working with me, but I couldn't have made the transition the way I did without a guy like Tice. And then Mercedes Lewis, who's still playing for the Packers today. I think he's on his 14th or 15th year out of UCLA. It's just mind-boggling. But he was a big-bodied, 6'6", 6'7", 265, 270-pound tight end too. Heck of a lot more athletic than I was. But he took blocking seriously as a blocking tight end. And then that's what I was meant to be, as a blocking tight end, kind of a sixth extra O-lineman, if you will. And so he took me under his wing, taught me a lot of stuff, made it and made a good run in Jacksonville. I ended up being down there 4 years playing tight end. And it was a lot of fun, Jay. I tell you what, defense is a lot of fun too, but there's just something about having, and I didn't get the ball a lot, especially in games. I think I had like 11 career catches or something, nothing crazy. But there's just something about that opportunity to be able to catch a ball in a game. It's kind of like having a free reign at the blind side of a quarterback and just going to get that sack. There's that possibility, kind of that carrot out there. And that was such a fun experience. And then obviously I got the ball a lot more in practice than I did in games, whether it was through practice squad or running routes on the practice team or just doing different goal line drills and red zone offense, Skelly, 7-on-7. There's just something fun about catching the ball that made it a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I was after I got cut after going into my third year with the 49ers. I went to the Rams and actually spent some time on the practice squad with the Rams as not my first opportunity to get back after my injuries. And when you're on the practice squad, people don't realize you have to play everything. It don't matter. Everything. I mean, you only got. I think at our time we only had. I think that would have been 09, 2010. We only had.
I think there's 8.
I think 6. Yeah, 6 or 8 practice squad guys. So I would play, linebacker, defensive end for defensive scout against the 1 and 2s, and then when the defense would come up, I would play tight end.
Yep. I mean, because all you got to do is read off a card.
Right. That's all you do. You're like, okay, so I have to run a 7 route, a 9 route. Okay, but just make sure you're like. Biggest thing was like getting your alignments right. Yep. And then like I got kind of good. Like I just was doing it all the time. And I played running back in high school, but like I can't remember who our tight end coach was. He was like, "You should do this." Like I'm like, and they wanted me to come back that off season. And I ended up signing with the Tennessee Titans, a horrible decision, but they wanted me to come back and like kind of decide what I want to do. I could play defensive end or I can play tight end. I'm like, I go back and I'm like, oh my God, I should have done it. Just like something different, like, and just to kind of like resurrect my career because it was going nowhere at the time. I'm like, damn, because I played running back. I had hands. I could do that. Yeah. I mean, I could have definitely have, lost a few more pounds and get down to 260, 265. And I'm like, gosh, I really wish I would have done that.
Yeah, I mean, you were the speed defensive end, and then when San Fran, weren't you the stand up 3-4?
Yeah.
So you're athletic, you know how to do all that stuff. The thing I always tell people, the best thing about the practice squad, I mean, obviously being a guaranteed guy on the 53 is obviously the best, but the practice squad is a heck of a way to start your way in the NFL. Good career. You get to the cool thing I thought it is you got to interact with so many different people because you're interacting with the defense, reading those cards. And then you're also interacting with the offense, reading those cards and watching film, and you're interacting with. So you get to know a lot of people on the team really quickly, which was huge for me going into, because I went to Jacksonville week 3. So I didn't know any of these guys. I didn't know a soul. And really going down there to switch tight end, I really gave myself like 3 weeks. I'm like, okay, where's the cheapest extended stay deluxe that I can stay in that maybe has like a towel that gets switched out once a week. I'm like, I'm fresh out of college. I don't have Scully checks anymore. Granted, practice squad checks is good, but I'm like, give me 3 weeks. And if I made it like the 4th week, and I think I called my dad, I'm like, hey, why don't you ship my car down here? I don't want to pay this rental car fee anymore. Ship it down here. And I ended up staying in the wonderful extended stay deluxe the whole practice squad year. I got activated to 53, I think week 17. So those last 2 weeks were a lot better paychecks, if you will, going into the next year. But then, ended up making the active roster and staying on the active roster the next 3 years, and ended up, renting properties down there to live in and stuff. But I'll never forget those. Here's another funny story, though. Nate Swift actually came down to Jacksonville and was on the practice squad with me for like the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season. And so, we hung out. We'd go to a bar and watch all the Husker games. We lived technically across the hall from each other in this extended stay. We were paying like, I literally think we were paying like $140 a week in this hotel. And I look back, and my wife looks back now. She was my girlfriend at the time. She came down. She goes, she came down once. She goes, I will never stay in here again with you because this place is so bad. I'm like, well, I'm not here all the time. I'm usually at the stadium.
Yeah. No, that's same. I mean, so when I was at the Rams, I guess you'd have been in the same facility there in Earth City when you were at the Rams, right?
The worst part about that place was the landfill to the other side and a strong wind. Oh my God, that practice field was awful smelling.
Yeah. So like I stayed in a Candlewood Suites for the whole season. I got there week 2 or week 3, and I stayed in the Candlewood Suites for the whole year. I had my wife driving out my car at the time, and I'm like, there's no way I'm renting an apartment. Like, there's no
best
way. I'm gonna get tied into a lease, and once I get cut, I don't have to fork out $4,500, $5,000, and all of a sudden in like rent payments because I just got cut, and what am I gonna do with all this rented furniture or whatnot?
Yep.
That's what people don't realize. It's luxurious for like about 20 guys on that roster. That's about it. The rest of us are are on like literally day-to-day contracts.
Mhm.
Like you could be gone in a day.
So Swift and I, we'd always on Tuesday, because Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time in New York City is when the next the league week clicked over. So we'd do something in the morning. We'd obviously go show your face at the facility because you want to be around there as much as you can. Just show face, say, hey, I'm committed to this. This is my job, all this stuff. But you get lunch. You get lunch at the facility, of course, because you're too broke and still in college mindset to go buy anything. So you get free lunch. And a couple bags to take home with you too. But we'd always like put a movie on at like 3:00. So we would try and get our mind off 4:00, that we would not get that phone call of, hey, can you bring your playbook in before 4? And then we always knew when that movie was over, it's like, sweet, we're getting paid another week. Because it didn't matter. We'd get cut Tuesday at 6 p.m., but that league week had started, so you were going to get paid regardless. So it's just, like you said, the stories that undrafted or even guys that are drafted 6th, 7th round, your first couple years in the NFL, that people could tell, or people would be like, you're so full of it. There's no way that's what you did. You were in the NFL making X, and it's like, no, there's only a handful of people that are making, those $7 paychecks and everything. And it's just, I don't know. It's so fun though. I learned so much about myself, about business and everything in the NFL. It's such a cutthroat business, as you know, from getting cut and traveling, and guys that could go from, they could be on 5 teams in a year, just going from practice squad to practice squad. And I mean, it's I don't know. I look back on it. It was a lot of fun. There's things I look back just like, I really did that. But
yeah, it definitely built some character. I mean, I was a 4th round pick to San Francisco, so it wasn't great money, but like decent. Like it's most money I've ever had in my life. Being a 4th round pick, and I'm getting an apartment which was $3,000 a month in San Jose. I mean, I look back and I'm like, what does a mortgage for $3,000 get you in Omaha, Nebraska, or Lincoln, Nebraska? I'm like, that gets you like over $500,000 home. Like it's just it's crazy. And I come back in the off season, I have a little townhome, and that's like it's like a fourth of what that rent payment is. But like that there, and then like I come here, I'm like, there's no way I'm getting an apartment. Like I just spent all this money for 2 years in San Francisco or in San Jose where we were at the time. Like there's no way I'm gonna blow any more money than I already did, on some apartments or something like that. But yeah, you learn how to pinch a few pennies, even though you're making some decent cash.
Well, it's pinching pennies, and it's also finding, like, getting in with the guys that know the right thing. So being in Jacksonville, and this is no surprise to you, but obviously there's a lot of good golf courses down there. So our kicker, Josh Scobie at the time, was the best player on our team. And so like every Tuesday he'd organize a match somewhere. And just because it was, okay, here's 4 or 8 Jaguars that want to play. So we never had to pay green fees. Now we could be at Sawgrass, we could be down at World Golf Village or wherever. And I'm almost like, okay, I need to get involved with this group, because instead of me just like, hey, I'm going to go play golf on a Tuesday by myself, or get one other person that I know and we're paying, $70 for a green fee. I'm like, I need to get in that group. So I'm with the guys that are not paying the green fees, better golfers. So, that was, and the same thing with like, you get with, whether it was like dinners or something, like, hey, practice squad guys, just come with us. I'll take care of you a little bit, and we had good guys like that would help you, because they knew that, most practice squad guys are the first year or second year guys that, still haven't made a lot of money, and you're still pretty fresh out of college, but you got guys that are making, 7 figures in 1 week. And it's like, help me out here, brother.
Right. Well, I told people, like, being a practice squad, I mean, now you got your head kicked in for 3 days, but that's all you really had to work, though, was 3 days. You busted your ass for 3 days. And God, what was it? What was a weekly? Was it like $6,500 a week? I can't remember.
No, my rookie year. So that was 2000.
Maybe it was $5,000.
It was $5,200 a week.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's gone up since then. Maybe that's the number now.
I think it's north of, it might be closer to 6 or 6,500, but I think there's 12 or 13 guys on our practice squad now. There's definitely more players. It's a great way. It was a great acclimation period for me into the NFL. Obviously, I made a position switch, like you said, which was huge. I still look back and I'm like, how many real tight ends, I say real tight ends by college tight ends that either got drafted or didn't get drafted, were watching me play and be like, how in the hell is this guy sticking on these teams? He played defense in college. I played tight end and had actual catches, but I can't get a roster spot. And I got to meet a lot of different tight ends in that situation because we'd have injuries. Guys that it was always me and Mercedes were always pretty up there. Zach had a couple of injuries, a couple of our other tight ends that we had because we usually carried 3. Sometimes we'd carry 4 tight ends. And so that Tuesday revolving door of, okay, how many tryouts can we have? You'd get to meet some of these guys that would come in and they'd be on our team for 1 or 2 weeks at a time. And I was kind of in the back of my head, like, they got to be looking at me like, how is this guy playing tight end? Like, he played defense in college. And it's neat for me to look back on and see that. But I'm sure you have the same memory, though, too. Obviously, I watched the Prep Westside game last night, like you mentioned earlier. But when you watch, like, college or even NFL games, is there a party that looks back and it's like, did I really play NFL football or professional football? And, like, you just kind of see how violent the game is. And it's like, did I really do that for that long?
Yeah, I know. I'll watch. Like, I don't watch a ton of NFL. I'm definitely more of I love to watch. I watch college football all day.
Yeah.
I'll watch. I'm like, oh my god, that just looks like. I'm just like, that looks terrible. like no wonder why my body feels the way it does, and like some days are better than the other. I'm like, it's like, and this the whole getting into the whole getting coronavirus playing football. I'm like, there's 19 more violent things and harder things in your body that happen every play in football than getting, for my insensitive self, kind of a cold, So it's like
the thing that really bothered. Yeah, the thing that I look back at when I see Coach Duval post these videos of Huskers like squatting like 8 plates, I look back, I'm like, that looks so bad right now and so awful. Like, my legs start hurting just when I see them doing that.
I know. Do you follow Slauson on Instagram?
Yeah.
Did you see him posting like squatting 405?
I think I commented on it below. I think I put why. I'm like,
right.
Zero squatting.
Right. I said there will be a call to the chiropractor in 12 hours or less.
When I first got done playing, a few years ago, because I still wanted to like get under a barbell sometimes and be like that and squat a little bit. I called it the 225 rule. I go 2 plates is max. And then now the older I get, it's like, I don't even want to be under a barbell. I'll just do some free weights. And that's.
Yeah, I've turned into like using rubber bands now.
Well, because you're a golfer. You do golf workouts.
I do.
You're not doing workouts or even dad bod workouts. You're doing like golf workouts.
I'll still do some kettlebell stuff every now and then and do some weights.
Kettlebells, I consider that a free weight, so that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Just don't get under a squat bar or do any hang cleans or
no.
Of the CrossFit stuff. They're like, would you ever do CrossFit? I'm like, I did CrossFit for 4 years in college. I did CrossFit when I was in the NFL and weight rooms. Like, I'm done doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Dude, I mean, anything overhead, like my AC joints and my shoulders, like pop 7 times.
Yeah.
It's like there's no way like I'm doing all these. Yeah, like it's terrible.
No, I'll do some shoulder press, with some 45-pound dumbbells, but that's even about I don't go much over a 50-pound dumbbell even anymore. Just I'd rather do more reps, less weight.
Yeah. Do you still follow Jacksonville and like do you watch like I'll follow the 49ers because they drafted me and and do you still follow Jacksonville pretty heavily because that's the team you played with the most?
Yep, that's people always ask me. So who do you cheer for? I go first. I cheer for people that I played with that are still playing. So I got like Mercedes Lewis who's playing for the Packers, Suh obviously, and then also coaches that coach me in certain roles. Like my tight end, 2 of my tight end coaches, believe it or not, are actually now in Buffalo. One's a tight end coach, one's the O-line coach. So they're both up there. So I follow those guys. And then as a team, though, I cheer for Jacksonville. They haven't gotten any better since I left. When I left, I thought I was the problem, but it hasn't been me. I fly my Jaguar flag proudly on Sundays or Thursdays whenever they play. So, and mainly it's just because I still know plenty of people that are part of that organization. Maybe it's trainers or in marketing or communications, like when you're doing, different events for, charity events, stuff like that. But, it gave me a great, start to my life, if you will, same how San Francisco did for you. And so you have to abide with or go with somebody, and Jacksonville just seemed like the right fit for me. And it helps that a lot of guys that I played with down there that aren't playing anymore, whether it was on practice squad or active roster, actually made their homes in Jacksonville. So they're still going to games, and I still see them going to games and everything. So yeah, Jacksonville's my team through and through. We need a lot of help. So
yeah. So this is showing my age. So finally, I think the last guy I ever played with just retired this last year, and that was Joe Staley.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, he played. I mean, we were the draft class of 2007.
Yeah.
He played for what 13? That's 13 years, and he played left tackle. He played offensive line for 13 freaking years.
That's nuts. I still got quite a few guys, not necessarily tight ends. There's a few tight ends that I played with. Ryan Griffin, I played with him when I was in Houston. He's with the Jets still. Obviously, quarterbacks make it a lot longer. Blaine Gabbert he's got the best job in the world now, backing up Tom Brady down in Tampa Bay. So I still talk to Blaine every now and then. I don't know if there's any other. I think most of the kickers are not all passed. They're not dead, but they're gone now. So it's dwindling for sure. Even you see guys like Jeremiah Searles, who I didn't play with at Nebraska, but I played against him in the NFL, who's obviously now out of the NFL. And it's been 6 years for me, which is kind of mind-boggling to think it's been that long since I've been done. But it just shows you how short the careers are in the NFL. And you try and get as much as you can out of the NFL because they know they're getting everything out of you for sure.
Oh, that's most definitely. Hey, I wanted to ask you this. When you came to Nebraska, did you have an opportunity to play basketball in college?
I could have. So it's kind of funny. So Coach Solich offered me after my sophomore year when I camped down in Nebraska. And so I think getting that Nebraska football offer so early in my high school, I think it scared away a lot of people because I was getting some mailing from, small, NAIA Division II schools. My dad was actually just going through a bunch of my old mail the other day. He found 2 letters. I think it was Coach McDermott, who's now at Creighton when he was at Northern Iowa. And then Tim Miles, when he was at North Dakota, had sent me letters, way back when. I would have loved to play basketball. If I will always say this, and I don't think it would have been true. I think someone would have talked me out of it. But if Dana Altman at Creighton would have offered me to play basketball, I probably strongly would have considered it just because basketball was my first love. Football just kind of happened because I naturally grew into my body and was able to, I was a terrible weightlifter in high school, if you will. I never did it. I might do some bicep curls just for fun, but my coach, Tom Jaworski, he was, it was 34th year of coaching at prep, weights to him, he'd been coaching long enough without weights. So weights weren't really a big thing for us. Then I was just able to take advantage of my size in high school, but I would have loved to play basketball. I don't play basketball at all anymore though. Just, I kept screwing up my toes. They would slide in my shoes or something. I was losing toenails. I'm I'm done with this. So I've taken your approach to just play golf socially now. So
yeah. How is your golf game?
It's not as good as yours. I've had a good 2-month stretch though. I will say that my handicap, I think it's down to a 5.2 index. So nothing to slouch at. I always tell people, if anybody want to have a D-line tournament, I think me and Jay Moore do just fine in that tournament as far as golfers go.
Yeah.
No, it's, golf's such a fun thing to do. And like I said, I got kind of addicted to it when I was in Jacksonville because of, the nice weather and the number of courses that were down there. They'd have the Players Championship every year that we would go to because it was in May. So really got addicted to golf then. And I grew up playing a little bit. Or not a little bit. I played plenty when I was growing up, but Jacksonville being down there really kind of got my mind going on it. And then now I can, I use it with, taking clients out or, just networking with people. It's such a good thing to do. I don't do competition golf like you do, but there's still nothing better than getting 3 guys in a foursome and you're playing some sort of game. And you're standing over a putt, or hey, you're one up going at 18. All you're thinking about, okay, don't hit this drive out of bounds, just keep it in play. That's the competition that in you and I both of that still just fuels us that we don't have from team sports anymore. But truthfully, I feel like golf is in a way so much harder because it's an individual sport. You're not relying on someone to make a block for you, or someone to throw you a good catch, or something like that. It's so independent, and you got to it's all just you, which makes it fun and makes it challenging.
Yeah, people ask me, I playing more the competitive stuff. What are you more nervous doing? I go, oh, golf for sure, because when I mess up, it's just me.
Yep.
If I mess up in football, I got 10 other guys that back my ass up.
Yep.
So it's way tougher. Golf is way more nerve-wracking than football.
Yeah, totally. You're standing, you miss a putt, it's all on you. You can't blame anybody else. You can blame the ball, you can blame your putter, you can blame a unrepaired ball mark in the grass, but you could have fixed all that stuff. If you miss a tackle in football, someone's going to be right there to hopefully back you up, or make that tackle with you, or there's so many things that as a team sport that can help you in that. But golf, you're just out there on an island playing with yourself and hoping that you make that putt, hit that drive. If you don't, though, it's just on you. You're just like, dang it, like, come on.
Yeah, no. So what we're gonna do now, I think, is they've been on the pod, is the Out of Nowhere pod. Danny Woodhead and Matt Slauson. I think you and I need to take on Danny and Slauson. I think it's a good match.
I'm down for that. Think about that. That's a running back, an O lineman, and 2 D linemen that are all addicted to golf. And Danny's probably addicted. I think you're the best of the 4. Slauson's newer to the game, but I'll gladly slide into the 3 slot there and be just fine.
Yeah, and we'll have Danny host because he's now a new member at Omaha Country Club. So
I did hear he joined there. So I'm totally. You arrange that. You get that text out to us 3, and we'll get that handled.
I'll get it fired up here, and we'll get this set up. Zach, I appreciate you taking time out of your day, my man, and I know you've been busier than hell with your job and getting people all set up for video conferencing and TVs and whatever, So
yeah, no, it's always fun getting on and chatting with former players and guys that you played with, and just kind of it's reminiscing. It's the locker room that we all miss, of just coming in and kind of shooting the bull on a Monday or a Sunday, after a game, or after a party on a Saturday. It's just that's what people always say, what do you miss the most? I always joke, like, number 1's the paycheck, obviously, but 1B is always just the locker room camaraderie, and just kind of having you walk into a locker room, whether it's NFL and you got 50 brand new friends, or a university and you got 100 plus new guys that you can be buddies with. It's that's what we all miss, is that camaraderie. So the more you can chat with people, whether it's a podcast, getting out and playing golf, or just going and having a beer somewhere, that's what we all miss and enjoy.
Well, when I send this text message out, it'll be golf and beer, and maybe some more beer after that. So
hey, there's nothing better than a 19th hole beer.
No, all right, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, man.